Hey, how's it going? Just like they can't all be California girls, they can't all be supercars. This is Tom Burkart from Car Revs Daily, reviewing the 2014 Chevrolet Captiva Sport front-wheel drive. So this is a pretty surprising car. There's a couple interesting things going on with it that we'll outline in these two quick videos. But first off, let's discuss the positioning of this vehicle. First off, if you look at the pictures, you might recognize it as the previous Saturn Vue, and that is in fact the case. This is the Saturn Vue that was rebranded as a Chevrolet Captiva Sport and sold for just the fleet market for the last few years, since 2009 or 2010, when Saturn. I don't know how to say that, but when Saturn basically was folded back into General Motors proper. So the Captiva Sport is a fleet only vehicle, and it starts for fleet sales from about like $22,000 with like the usual discount, and then this LT model is in the middle of the range, of course above the LS but below the LTZ. And some of the new updates for 2014 on the Captiva Sport include the MyLink touchscreen, as well as a couple other new features. But the MyLink controls, actually it is a touchscreen. Yeah, so the MyLink controls are new for 2014. That is the big update. Otherwise, this car is majors on value and access for fleet customers. So that can be like government agencies or big companies or somebody who wants to buy 20 cars of the same car without having to go to the dealer. So GM is really like a power player in that segment. And the other vehicle that they have available for these types of customer, I mean, basically they have like their whole line available for fleet sales. But the big volume mover in like the small compact SUV segment is of course the Equinox. But the Equinox is a little bit more expensive than you might expect. So the Captiva, the Captiva Sport, I should say, or the Captiva, I mean, you can call it whatever you want. They basically call it the Captiva Sport because in Europe, the Captiva, and I guess not Europe anymore, but in Europe and some other global markets, the Captiva is a different vehicle. So the Captiva Sport really majors on value and getting people into an all-wheel drivable type of machine versus just like the standard Econo box that fleet customers have long not looked forward to. It's great to get a new car like every 2 years or whatever, but it's even better to be able to sort of like pick one and identify that it does have good traits. Even though you're not paying for it, you have to spend 2 hours a day in it. So that's a pretty significant chunk of your existence spent in this vehicle. So if you were in a Chevy Cobalt or something from 2009, this could be a real step up. So let's see how it drives. We'll just start her up here. All right. So there's definitely a few things like when you get in this car, like coming right from performance cars. So the last few cars I drove the Infiniti Q50S all-wheel drive hybrid last weekend. We got some peeps on the street. Head-to-toe denim, and also the Jaguar XFR. So it's really hard to get into like a such a volume and economy-based vehicle and give objective impressions whatsoever, because of course the first time you get in it, you're kind of like this is no Jaguar Infiniti, but the truth is, this car does have merits on its own. So let's outline what those are. But it also has some pretty significant downsides, and all this really stems from the fact that it is sort of like it was in like a middle period for General Motors. Of course, this car was basically launched, I believe, in 2007. It was really new. So let's say engineered between 2005 and 2007, and that was really before General Motors sort of like woke up and really smelled the beans. So in saying that it's like a sort of a middling car, my basis for comparison is we reviewed my grandpa's 2003 Buick Regal the other week, which was like seriously a really scary car to drive. Not for any like real safety reasons. It's just so out of touch with reality of what cars are like now and what cars were like in 2002 and 2003 when that car was sold. So then on the other side of that equation, you have of course the new Chevrolet Impala and the new Malibu Turbo, which is like a 5.9 second car these days for a Malibu. So those are sort of like a new generation of vehicles in every way. I promise you. I mean, if you've ever driven or rented or been had that as your trusty fleet chariot, you will be shocked when you drive the new cars, because A, they feel a lot more substantial and more rigid. Like parts aren't going to start like flying off everywhere. They're much quieter, they handle much better, they're more comfortable, faster, and they have much better technology. I mean, it's hard to sort of like, you know, it's hard to review these cars and try to be objective, because when it comes to improvement for like model over model year, I don't know what they're doing, but it's really, really good. But this car is sort of this 2014 Captiva Sport that we're in right now is a front-wheel drive model that is powered by a 2.4 liter Ecotec 4-cylinder, and this makes 182 horsepower these days, and is the only available engine. It previously was offered with an optional V6 as well as you know, an all-wheel drive on both those engines as an option versus front-wheel drive. But at this point, it's basically it comes with this engine as with front-wheel drive or with all-wheel drive available, and it's not a bad engine. I mean, it has direct injection, so it's pretty efficient on the roads. It also has a 6-speed automatic, which is good. We've got of course the updated infotainment for this year, but you know, how does it really drive? So when I first got in, you know, it's so it feels more substantial, but this is definitely like an intermediate car. For example, the when you look at the steering column, so it doesn't. Sorry, it's probably like a close up of my. This is it that I keep picking. So it doesn't have an adjustable column, and which is not good, and it has this really like unusual and huge steering wheel. You know, the materials actually like don't. I mean, the materials on the steering wheel itself don't feel that bad in terms of the leather wrap. It is I mean, it's stitched. You know, this is legitimate. So this car has received sort of a number of type like I guess Band-Aid type of updates, you could call that, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but updates that didn't require a full redesign of this model. That of course was already, you know, engineered. You know, cost, let's say, like $1.5 billion to engineer this vehicle, and then the moment it goes on sale, like 6 months later, the company is like, you know, being folded back into General Motors. So that's a little bit. So you can't just swallow that investment. I mean, you still have to like, you still have to sell these vehicles to someone. So the Captiva Sport, some of the other sort of like, I guess you could call them just regular updates that it does have is included. It has automatic climate control. It's got some rubberized knobs here. It's not bad. Has some like cool, and of course this car was originally based on the Opel and Vauxhall Antera, which is a European version of this exact vehicle, but that comes with mostly with crappy little diesels and stuff. So it does have like some quirks in that regard, and benefits, I guess you would say. In terms of like chassis rigidity, no doubt high-speed performance, high-speed braking, and the steering is good. It's heavy. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's that's just my crap rolling around back there. Steering is I guess so. It's firm and feelsome would be the best way to describe it versus just straight up heavy. But it is really good. I mean, so there's a little bit of torque steer, which we're going to see in just a moment. But it's really, you got to think of the segment, you guys. I mean, most of the cars that these front drive compact SUVs are really woeful to drive and have continuously variable transmissions at this point, which is never fun. I mean, while it's you know, it's easy to knock CVTs for many valid reasons. Most people who are doing the debate between like DCT. Okay, so we got pretty good dynamics here. It's trying to understeer, but stability control is keeping it in check. So you know, whatever. With any kind of automatic versus manual type of you know debate, there's somebody who loves that type of car. Whereas I don't think there's really somebody who loves CVTs. But you know, that's what buyers in this segment have really all they've really been able to look forward to. So you know, you got to really consider perspective, and General Motors, the last thing we'll say in this first video is that General Motors is not alone in sort of keeping cars in like an overlap type of production lately. It's nothing as bad as like Land Rover keeping that, you know, ghastly Land Rover 2 in production, but the Nissan, I just read somewhere that the Nissan Rogue is coming back and is going to be back. Or excuse me. So of course the Nissan Rogue was new for 2014. It came out in like November and was really good, and But they are selling the old one. I can't remember what exactly they're calling it, but they're going to sell the previous generation model for a few more months. It's called like the, I don't know, the Rogue Classic or something. So General Motors is not alone in doing this, and it's a pretty valid strategy, because when you don't update the car, you can just cut the price. So then you're competing in segments that are much more affordable without having to do any lifting at all. So all good things. All right, let's check back for the next video. I'm gonna really hammer the gas. So all right, take it easy. Thanks. This has been Tom Burkart for Car Revs Daily. Thanks.